In the mountains outside Park City, Utah, a family lived in a large home with 3 young sons, a successful business, and every appearance of a comfortable life. This is HerCrime. Kouri Richins was 35 years old, a Utah mother of 3, and a real estate investor who flipped houses. Her husband, Eric Richins, was 39, a stonemason who ran his own business. To the outside world, they were an ordinary American family, building something together. But behind the surface, the marriage was fracturing. Kouri had accumulated serious debt. She was spending beyond what the couple could afford. She had her eye on a 22,000-square-foot mansion outside Park City, valued at $7.6 million. A property Eric thought was far too expensive and had plans to tell her not to purchase. She also had a secret. Prosecutors would later reveal that Kouri had reignited a relationship with her former boyfriend, Robert Josh Grossman. Text messages shown to the jury included one in which she wrote, "I am in love with a man that is not my husband." Grossman has not been accused of any wrongdoing in this case. Eric Richins had begun to suspect something was wrong. According to affidavits from the Summit County Sheriff's Office, he had warned family members that Kouri was to blame if anything ever happened to him. He stayed in the marriage because of their 3 sons. He was 39 years old. He had no history of drug use. On Valentine's Day 2022, just 10 days after a new life insurance policy on Eric came into effect, Kouri gave her husband a sandwich from a local restaurant. Eric called 2 friends that day and told them he felt like he was going to die. He developed severe hives and lost consciousness. He recovered. He stayed. Prosecutors say that within weeks, Kouri contacted a dealer and obtained fentanyl pills. Fentanyl is a synthetic opioid 50 to 100 times more potent than morphine. She picked up the pills on February 26, 2022. Eric Richins had 6 days left to live. On the evening of March 3, 2022, Eric and Kouri Richins had a drink together to celebrate a successful transaction from her real estate business. Prosecutors alleged she had laced his Moscow Mule cocktail with fentanyl. Their 3 young sons were asleep upstairs. Kouri told police she went to sleep in her son's room around 9:30 p.m. because he was having nightmares. When she returned to the master bedroom approximately 6 hours later, she said she found her husband dead in their bed. Eric Richins was 39 years old. An autopsy revealed Eric Richins had died of a fentanyl overdose. The medical examiner found 5 times the lethal dosage of fentanyl in his blood. There was no evidence of heart disease, stroke, or any other natural cause of death. A forensic pathologist testified he had simply been poisoned. The day after Eric's death, Kouri closed the deal on the 22,000-square-foot mansion he had opposed. She relisted it 2 weeks later for $5 million. Prosecutors alleged her motive was financial: millions in life insurance, control of the couple's finances, and a new life with her former boyfriend. Then Kouri Richins did something almost impossible to comprehend. In early 2023, less than a year after her husband's death, she self-published a children's picture book. It was called Are You With Me? It was about childhood grief. She said she had written it with her children to help them process the loss of their father. The man prosecutors said she had just poisoned. In promotional interviews, Kouri described the book as bringing peace to her and her boys. She spoke about grief. She spoke about loss. She appeared on local media. The book was available on Amazon, and investigators were already watching. In May 2023, Kouri Richins was arrested and charged with murder. When her home was searched, investigators found a 6-page letter she had written from jail, in which she appeared to attempt to plant a false narrative, suggesting Eric had purchased fentanyl from Mexico himself. The letter was used against her at trial. While she was in custody awaiting trial, Kouri maintained her innocence completely. Her defense argued the state had failed to prove she was responsible for the fentanyl in Eric's system. She pleaded not guilty to all charges. Her trial began in February 2026 and ran for 3 weeks. Prosecutors painted Kouri as intensely ambitious, but financially incompetent, a woman who projected wealth while drowning in debt. They argued she had tried to kill her husband twice, first on Valentine's Day with the laced sandwich, and then on the night of March 3rd with the Moscow Mule. Witnesses took the stand one by one. A close friend and business partner of Eric testified he had never seen Eric use illicit drugs of any kind. Eric's sister told the court he had expressed fear that Kouri was trying to kill him before his death. Grossman, the former boyfriend, appeared to cry on the witness stand as he testified. Jurors were shown the text messages. They heard the testimony about the Valentine's Day sandwich. They heard from the medical examiner about the 5 times lethal dose of fentanyl. They heard about the mansion closed the day after his death. And they heard about the children's book published months later. On March 16, 2026, after just 3 hours of deliberation, the jury returned its verdict. Kouri Richins was found guilty of aggravated murder, attempted aggravated murder, insurance fraud and forgery. She showed little reaction as the verdict was read. She appeared subdued as she learned her fate. On May 13, 2026, what would have been Eric Richins' 44th birthday, Kouri Richins appeared before the court for sentencing. The aggravated murder conviction carries a mandatory minimum of 25 years and a maximum of life in prison. She still faces a separate trial for 26 additional financial crimes. Eric Richins' family addressed the court. They described a father, a son, a brother, and a businessman who had built something real, and who had stayed in a marriage he feared because he loved his 3 boys. His sons were 9, 7, and 5 years old when he was taken from them. Kouri Richins was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. She maintained her innocence to the end. The children's book she wrote about grief, about the death of the man prosecutors say she poisoned, remains available for purchase online. Eric Richins had no history of drug use. He had warned his family. He had stayed for his sons. On the night of March 3, 2022, he had a drink with his wife to celebrate a business deal. He was 39 years old. He never woke up. And the woman who wrote a book about his death to bring peace to their children was sentenced to spend the rest of her life in prison on what would have been his 44th birthday. Eric Richins, he was 39 years old. Kouri Richins was sentenced to life without parole. The children's book she wrote about his death can still be found online.